is that besides having multiple entries, which is a thing the community didn't do for previous tournaments, this is a tournament meant for new and upcoming runners. People who are a little bit intimidated or who are just finding the game and who we want to give a chance here in the spotlight. Light away from the top of runners who would ordinarily make up the top seeds of previous tournaments to help us with getting at these runners as much experience as they can, and they are off.
Yeah. What we've seen is a wide variety of players. We've gotten to see new playstyles, and also just the fact knowing that this is a round-robin style tournament, where instead of a double elimination like some of the previous matches or tournaments that we've had, we know that even if the runners take a loss today, they aren't going to be playing for their tournament lives in the next round.
That's right. They will be getting basically the full tournament to play through, and then we will have a finals of the top of the runners with the most wins. This is about how we're going to do this. But for this match today, we will be seeing a best of 3 because this game is a lot of luck. And while we are doing a seeded tower run, that luck will be equalized between both of the runners, kind of. Because the luck in terms of things like traps or so on will still be random based on their respective movements. And we'll be able to compare how those movements have a sort of chain reaction through everything they do. Whether going in one direction causes them to run into certain groups of monsters as a cluster as opposed to individuals, that sort of thing. And so to sort of get the most even sense of it with all of the randomness of Azure Dreams, we'll be seeing the runners do a best 2 out of 3. And this first floor is basically tutorial the first time it's run through. Depending on how the runs go, we might see different variations of the first floor, which is unusual. It is an unusual floor no matter when you hit it, and it looks like RespectableFool is hitting that trap tutorial and is gonna hit that elevator tutorial. Yeah! DAdam or Dreamy Vision, I'm not sure which is the preferred at this point. Alright, did miss his first hit on that Palumba, and that's worrying.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a little bit of saber rattling, just kind of menacing the Palumba there.
Yes, RespectableFool just skipping the second floor entirely, taking that elevator, but that's really pretty inadvisable, and it says that he's being very daring, and he's going with a 4 AI Cune to help him out, which is, again, not what you normally see. You normally end up seeing and Cune is down, which is one of the reasons why you end up normally seeing what Dreamy Vision is doing a bit more, which is having Cune back him up with magic. It costs less MP and is less risky to both the player, the player character, and to Cune. And yeah, the luck on the in terms of missing isn't good, and RespectableFool goes down on the third floor. Part of that is that he didn't get that first level up that Dreamy Vision got, which is the most important level up in the game. Early on, You start with 16 HP. But the first level up brings you to 26 HP, which is the difference between being taken out before you can kill a monster, like say a flame, which this one was not, but a stronger monster, like say a monster on the 3rd floor, and not being able to take out that monster, which is what happened. And it looks like we are seeing some technical issues on Dreamy's side, and that has cleared up, thank goodness. Oh no, RespectableFool forgot to get Kyun from inside the monster shack, and it looks like he is going to hurry back and get Kyun by dying to this Palumpa. The Palumpa sees its sweet, sweet vengeance for always getting killed on the 1st floor.
I like the way you put that. We're having a bit of a issue since Dreamy doesn't have a timer, that we're getting a lot of flashes in the timer area. So I hopefully have fixed that to be a static image now. Do let me know if you see issues.
Nope, it looks good. Looks good here. That situation does look solved.
Okay, great.
By the way, DAdam or Dreamy, whichever, we probably should just pick one. And I'll go with the one that's on screen at the current moment, and apologies in advance to him if he would have preferred it the other way. I'll probably ask between runs. That is what I will do.
I do believe that he prefers to go by Dreamy when I've chatted with him in voice, so...
Alright then, Dreamy it shall be. Anyway, Dreamy used the go-up trap, which is a little faster than the elevator. But after exploring the 2nd floor, which is again the more usual sort of pattern. And that first level up is so important, and there's really not a whole lot of tower that you get to see before it starts really trying to kill you.
Right, yes. You can try to spend a little bit of time to build up that item base, and really that's what the runners will be hoping to do, but even on this very first floor, there's still, there's no lower spawn rate. The spawn rate is constant across the floors, so there's every chance in the world that RespectableFool could get ganged up on by multiple enemies before he even gets a weapon or a shield.
Right, that is the danger of multiple entries is that while it does keep this race from having been over 5 minutes in, less than 5 minutes in, frankly, it also does mean that RespectableFool is going to have to not go in without that basic 5 pieces of equipment that the game gives you. It gives you without the basic sword, shield, spell ball, medicinal herb, etc. I think he did not get a pita fruit from his mother to start this run with either, which, if he starts making Kyun do the fighting directly again like he did his first time around, could be a problem. Because that will burn through Kyun's MP a lot faster. But if he remains in this situation, which is the usual one at the very least, a medicinal herb, that's nice for him.
Yes. Now, I do think that
ahead.
Compared to some of the runs that we saw yesterday, I do know though that RespectableFool is familiar with re-entry. He had been going through a casual blind playthrough on his Twitch channel, DAdam, and so the DPad went through and played through this game in full, and as a result had to experience these first floor layouts. There are 4 different ones, multiple times, and so he should have full confidence in being able to navigate through those.
That's good to hear. It's always interesting to see where people come at Azure Dreams from, because the experience of watching speedruns, which tend to be predominantly single entry runs, versus people who played it casually at some point in time, can become very different very quickly. The single entry runs, which is really not the best way to start off trying to run, and does cut out a great deal of this game, and specifically a great deal of this game's sort of big picture loop of how the experience goes, which features a lot of re-entry. The game expects you to die. The game expects you to come back with your monster's levels having increased a little bit from your attempt. You know, you could also win Crystal out, but it also kind of expects you to reach a point where you go, I cannot win. Oh, an egg! That would be handy on RespectableFool's side.
Oh, definitely. And that is actually a very interesting note about that egg. That normally, on your first climb through the tower, it is not possible to find an egg on the first 5 floors. It would only be on a re-entry that you can find one, just based off of the way the game handles a few parameters around that. So
that is interesting. I suppose they would. That's really interesting, and I'm not entirely sure I understand why, but I do think that's neat. This game is full of neat little things like that.
Yeah. Now, one thing that I'd like to, or a few things I'd like to point out, that we are keeping the audio on RespectableFool's side, because we were not able to get usable game audio out of Dreamy's side. Normally we'd switch to the runner that's in the lead. And on that point, I'd like to discuss how, Lady Deme, do we determine who is in the lead? How do we determine the winner of the race?
The winner of the race is determined by whoever gets to the single highest floor across however many entries it needs to take, but one run's highest floor the fastest. If it happens to come to a tie, for example, let's say, hey, Dreamy never gets higher than floor 5 for whatever reason, and RespectableFool also never gets higher than floor 5 for whatever reason. It's unlikely, but let's imagine. Then the winner will be Dreamy, because he got to floor 5 first. And RespectableFool will have to get one higher in order to... Oh, wow, that is a lot of monsters.
Now, thankfully, all but one of those monsters was asleep, and there is an elevator right here if he does feel like going up, but he would be missing out on the opportunity to get some levels on these lower floors.
And for that matter, again, some items, maybe there will be a shield for him, as he still does not have one.
Right, and those cyclones do hit hard.
That is very true. They can be pretty nasty without a shield.
Right, flames as well. One thing that I'll note is this is a seeded race, so both runners would be running the same tower. As it so happens, because this is RespectableFool's third climb, he is in essentially a third tower in a series. So if Dreamy were to leave the tower and re-enter 2 more times, he'd be entering the exact same tower layout with the same monster spawn, same items, and all of that as RespectableFool. We do seed these races using the de-randomizer in order... That was a lucky warp right there.
Yes, indeed.
To ensure that the runners have at least the same opportunities, but now that they are on different climbs, they could get something different. Ooh, a Scarlet Wand. That is a big pickup on RespectableFool's side. We'll help
Very
check
nice.
to see if that helps him speed on up and catch up with Dreamy, who's now on double his floor at floor 8.
Yep. Dreamy had a very nice series of elevator chains through the start, at the very least, of the harder part of the game. That Scarlet Wand is one of the better wands you can find. Generally, you will want a wand which corresponds to your monster's element. There is an elemental triangle. Fire beats wind, wind beats water, water beats fire. Now, so one of the things that many players like to do is eventually change Kuhn's element to water, but it's very possible that if you get a Scarlet Wand, you might just decide to keep it fire, and pick up that same elemental bonus. DAdam is using it looked like he used a Mahel Seed for a little bit to speed his way out of that room, carrying Kuhn with him, which is a pretty efficient way of getting across. That very dangerous situation of a U-boat and some blooms, neither of which are good or fun to have around.
Right, yeah. Blooms being water elemental compared to the fire elemental Cuny. One thing that I'll note as a difference between the two runners' approaches, we see that RespectableFool has taken a moment to set Cuny to walk directly behind him, compared to Dreamy, who has left Cuny in the default sort of back left position, sort of 9:30 on a clock face. What this means is Dreamy may end up triggering more traps, as the two will... have we lost Dreamy? Oh, nope,
dear.
he's back. Okay.
Oh, excellent. It is worth noting that his Kuhn did get hit by a poison trap that Kuhn could have avoided. He did on the second floor or so because of that position.
Looks like Dreamy was dealing with a controller issue there. That's why you may see a few
odd little moments.
Yeah.
Anyway, he did manage to recover that HP by using a recover ball. One of the rare times you see someone use a recover ball, frankly.
Yeah.
When they are not a commonly used item, because they can't directly help you. They can only hit something other than you or something reflective. Anyway.
Yep.
But he could have avoided that entirely by and a lean fruit on RespectableFool's side. That is very nice.
Yes, in a case where you don't have a shield, where a dangerous monster could mean the end of your run, having the get out of jail free card that is the Olim, you can just chuck it at a monster, and while you won't get any experience, but it will get completely out of your face. That is nice. Now, that was interesting. We saw RespectableFool zoom in so he could zoom out his screen slightly. And he also has changed the angle. Some runners do change this to try to give themselves a wider field of view, or at least just a different perspective. Sometimes it can be very hard to judge whether monsters are on the same level as you, or slightly higher, slightly lower, and can cause a miss.
Checking Kuhn's HP before deciding whether or not to see if there was anything else on this floor, which there was not, but But that was a good moment of calculating his risks and whether or not Kuhn has it in him for a longer stretch of fight. Oh, an Ice Rock Ball and an Olean Fruit. Food on Dreamy's side. That's not too bad. Certainly the Olean will never go amiss. You will never find your saying, oh man, this thing is useless, once you cotton on to the idea of throwing items, which admittedly is not necessarily something a casual player will cotton on to too easily.
Right. I remember actually being in RespectableFool's stream, watching his casual run, and he passed right by an Olean, and I asked him, oh, you don't want that? He's like, oh, I don't want to get rid of my familiar permanently just to warp out of the tower. I can use a wind crystal for that. I said, well, ... You can use, that Olean for another purpose. Chuck it at an enemy monster. And thereafter, the value of Oleans was learned. But nowhere in the game does it tell you can do that. Oh!
Right on top of the elevator, and while he's holding Kuhn. That is a bad situation to be in.
Yes, that is a monster
den. A bad situation? With, as pointed out, great music.
Now, if he can push that balloon, now that that balloon has moved, he should be able to get out of this, because he'll move right on top of the elevator. And I do believe balloons are pushable.
Right, they are not liftable. He did try that, which is a very, very sensible decision if you don't have it memorized, because who has it memorized? Right, except, well, okay, experienced runners, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That is to say that it is a reasonable line of thought that admittedly a lot of people also would not think about, but that ends this climb up the tower for him. He is going to keep Kuhn's levels, which certainly is nothing to sneeze at. But he will not keep the rest of his gear. He will not keep that Scarlet Wand, and that is a crying shame. Oh, a fire crystal underneath side.
Yep. But by no means is RespectableFool out of it. He's going back, he's grabbing CUNY, he knows that he's got 38 minutes left, and is trying, at least with a level 5 CUNY, to catch up. He has no idea where Dreamy is, and I like to see that attitude. He's also talking with his mother this time, to make sure that he gets that pita fruit, to be able to feed to CUNY. Although this is a mystery dungeon style game, you don't have a hunger meter per se, but you do at least have MP that constantly drains as you use attacks, or your familiar has an MP meter which drains as you use attacks, and even just walk around. So he's at least starting off on the right foot, and the lead is not insurmountable, although he doesn't know that.
Right. Fine. And also, I think picking up picking up the pita fruit from his mother, since he does very clearly like to have Kuhn do some of his fighting, that'll help him out a great deal.
Definitely. Meanwhile, we see Dreamy here considering exploring a little bit more on floor 12, but making the safe play and heading right up to floor 13. I missed seeing if he got the blue collar on 12.
I don't think he did, which does mean that Palumpa egg can't be fused in, which is unfortunate, and does mean that Water Kuhn is off the table. Did he find something? No, he still has a wooden on, and he's leaving the seal wand behind, which is a tiny bit of a surprise. It's not that huge a difference, but it's a little something.
Well, he would be taking another 1 in 8 chance that whatever wand he tries to equip, like the seal wand, could be cursed, which would,
be
reduce
unfortunate.
Yes. Now, thank you, Made of Heavy, for correcting me that.
To decurse scroll.
the pita fruit last time as well, I stand corrected. So Dreamy here, blinding that Newell. Unfortunately, a blinded monster will walk straight forward, so he does take one hit and does not want to have to tango with that sword troll. The sword
Unfortunately, the sword troll does feel like dancing and cuts right through that defense, which is the big difference between a sword troll and a club troll. A bow troll is its own headache.
Yeah.
But he leaned it away and manages to heal up with a medicinal herb. Wait, what?
Did we...
Did we miss a roche fruit?
Oh.
Oh! That will be fun to see what he uses it on. He hasn't... Oh, that is one.
Yeah, that's a decent chunk of monsters in here, but the elevator is also in this direction, so he is having to contend with a Kraken. Decides to use a Holy Scroll. That's a reasonable play. It's enough of a distraction to be able to make his way over to the elevator and get on out of there, because that Newell in the corner is blind and will not give him any trouble.
Yep, that really was a very efficient use of a resource that I necessarily wouldn't think to deploy in this particular situation.
Yep, and picking up those truth glasses, you could perhaps use them on that blinder ball, see how many charges it has, because blinder balls, I know that balls have a random number of charges between 4 and 7, but blinder balls always tend to seem to have somewhere in that upper end, at least for me, so I
feel like the status effects balls do tend to be a little bit more, have more uses than like pure offensive balls, which is interesting. That might just be pure confirmation bias.
Yep.
So,
okay. So
he's guessing that he's going to use that Roche on that Garuda,
and he does.
Looks like he is.
So, the Roche fruit, a little bit like a Pokeball, captures any monster, turns it into an egg, 100% success rate, and now Dreamy is hatching that Garuda egg, and will be using its broken ability, Abduct. And in the randomizer, it is actually slightly broken, at least in name. It gets rendered as Abduct with a U. I know this game has a few spelling mistakes. That one is introduced by the randomizer, just a consequence of another change that is a little bit unavoidable. But the Garuda is a wonderful monster that
completely busted.
Yep, for a third of an MP, you can use it to warp to any random room on the floor. So, since it costs so little MP, you can do that pretty much as you want. And even finding an egg, that is a nice find.
It really is. Though I'm not entirely sure he will need it. And it looks like he wants to get in, he wants to get to that elevator. So he's not going to teleport himself away from this fight. Oh, and it's another Garuda egg, just in case something happens to happen to this Garuda. In case he just wants the Garuda train to never stop.
Yeah, once you've identified
RespectableFool teleported out. He probably felt like he reached the limit of what this run could do for that run's gear could do for him without getting anything. We will have links to the seed in our wonderful Azure Dreams Discord, where we happen to have more information about the randomizer, challenge, the occasional challenge run concept, all sorts of things, news and updates, and yes, a link to this seed, in case you too want to have fun with Roche fruits and Garudas taking you wherever you want to go.
Yep. So Dreamy, warming that egg up ever so gently, and
Normally you'd wait to hatch an egg by an elevator, so that way you can like not just be standing in a potentially precarious. But with the
whoa!
power, you're
I think it
never.
seemed to have come out of nowhere.
Yeah, I'm not clear on how that just happened, but he's not going to bother with it. He's just going to say bye-bye.
Yep. Now, I will note that turn order in this game is a little bit odd, and it does mean that sometimes you could warp somewhere and using the Gruda's abductability and end up getting dropped into right next to an enemy monster and have that enemy monster just absolutely wipe out your Gruda. So that is one reason why Dreamy does want to have that second Gruda in reserve. But
just
you're right.
In case. Hey, something happens. It is noting that, as Sandknight says, Respectable can still it'll maybe bounce back. Something could happen with that Garuda. That would be a disaster. For example, it is a wind type. They could land onto a bomb trap and just get knocked out real hard. A Scarlet Wand, but Dreamy's done fighting. Dreamy is done spending inventory space on fighting, and when he could be spending it on Zoom. You know, like all of your business meetings and lectures these days. Topical humor, folks.
Oh, that is rich.
Binder Ball. That's interesting, but I guess it would not. I'm puzzling over the fact that Arachne was in the door. Was because he was in the doorway. I'm not clear on if the Arachne would have aggroed on him like before the blinding happened. That is just because blinding an enemy could still attack you if it was aggroed on you when you blinded it.
Well, so blind enemies will just continue to proceed forward without fail until they hit some sort of obstacle that forces them to turn, at which point they'll turn right. So, because
they attack you, which is the point I am making, is that I'm interested in how that would have interacted, basically.
Sure, yes, and so if the obstacle that's in front of them is something they can attack, then and only then will they attack it. Although there might be some special AI for bowgun trolls, not quite sure there. Those are always a bit of a wild card.
Would not be surprised, given that they have a special rule about being confused. Because, yeah, sure, why not? Interesting that he does not drop the Arachne when he gets abducted. That is not what I was expected, but he is having a difficult time moving in on this floor without running into two things at every turn, and it looks like he is tired enough of that he is just going to march on past that wee dog, heading towards that elevator and saying bye-bye to this floor, I have to imagine.
Yeah, I did not know that you could do that you could be abducted with a monster still in your hand, and to me, the prospect of flying spiders, that's not one that I want to have to contend with.
There are flying spiders in the real world, actually. I mean, for a value of flying, they're more like, I don't know, parachuting spiders?
Oh, the ballooning spiders.
Yeah, those are the ones.
Sorry to anyone watching this, just before going to bed and who does not care for spiders. Let me just say to those individuals, what we said was completely made up. To everyone else, no, it's completely true.
Don't worry, it's fine.
All right. So Dreamy there getting hit by a slow trap. That is not a trap that's you'd like to see. But thankfully, he is next to the throwing the blue sand at his Garuda, deciding it's not even worth buffing up his shield. And he wants his Garuda to know that.
You know, actually, that Palumpa there.
Yep.
And while I'm commenting on it, is actually perhaps one of the more threatening things that he specifically could run into. Because while they are mostly like a regular Palumpa, and some of the Palumpas on that floor are just regular old Palumpas, as pathetic as they have ever been, those particular ones with the dark lines indicating, I don't know, they're especially angry or something. They're especially punk rock Garudas, or Palumpas, can collar jack your monster, taking away your ability to have it, and that would be about one of the worst case scenarios for Dreamy here.
Right. Now, he was next to the elevator in that particular case, and something that some runners may not know is that if your collar gets jacked, as long as you go up to the next floor, you'll get that back. It's a little bit like the fact that if your familiar gets separated from you, you can step on the elevator.
Range warp there.
Yeah. Well, random does include right next to where you were. Ooh, a pillar ball. That's a nice pickup.
You get warp traps that do the very same thing, and you're glad for that. RespectableFool, putting that higher level than average Kyun to work. Real work there. And his defenses are enough that he doesn't have to worry quite as much as he did initially. Dreamy getting very lucky.
Right.
With that spawn on. And we're starting to see some of the higher your floors kicking on it. And that'll be fun to see some of the monsters and situations. And there's a Barong.
Yes,
he
I thought he was going
has already gotten the best thing he could get from that, but it is fun to see. And a surprise that he didn't do anything with. Maybe he didn't notice it as it was just leaving his line of sight when he entered in, but it looks more like he's just not going to bother.
Yeah. If you think you've got the tools that you need, he has a full inventory with pretty good items, a big pita fruit in reserve, a number of spell balls, including some
Palumpa egg, if he wants to feed that to the Garuda, because that is an option. You can, in fact, feed a monster egg to your monster to get it some EXP, some HP. It works just like a pita fruit in that respect. And it's one of the things you can do with that Palumpa egg that you get on your first entrance.
Yeah, it's a little bit like a multi-tool there. Dreamy immediately blowing through turns after hitting that blinder trap, and nothing coming his way. He is getting pretty lucky with there being a low number of spawns on this floor, I'd have to say.
Yeah, it really does feel like it. He might also just be moving in a way that dodges what there are, but I think it feels more like they're just it's a low density floor.
Right. It's one between 32 and 63 turns, a new monster will spawn, and so if you keep on getting those low rolls, running into two items right next to each other, one of which was Maneva in disguise. When you see the elevator, sometimes your instinct is to just run for it, and Dreamy took a hit to the face as a result of that.
RespectableFool found an acid rain ball, using it to get out of a situation that was starting to get pretty pressing. I wouldn't say it was immediately dire, but given the sort of luck he has had, and given Kyun's HP total, I think it is a very reasonable decision to go, I think I don't want to have to keep being swarmed.
Sure. Oh, another pillar ball for Dreamy. He's having to, at this point, look through his inventory. I would probably waste one of those truth glasses. But as it is, he's decided that he's done fighting. He can abandon his weapon. I guess he's deciding perhaps the Garuda is mightier than the sword, or mightier than the wand in this case. No need to even
he had
carry a
beaten
weapon.
his sword into monster collars.
I like it. Now,
That
interesting
killer-
choice to use the ice rock ball there. Clearly wants to take out this killer. And one reason why that may be is if he were to use the Garuda's ability to abduct himself and just warp around, landing right next to that killer, that's a monster that could easily one-hit kill either him or his familiar. And while he does have a backup Garuda, there is no backup Ko.
That is right. And he loses both of his Garudas if he left the tower, so he couldn't repeat this run. And that is the downside to hatching in the tower, and once again, walking directly into that transform Manoiva. I have a feeling he might be paranoid about coins for a little while after this.
Yep, one certainly hopes. So he is sending Cutie home. If he makes it to floor 40, he'll be surprised that Cutie has magically made his way back up. Who knew Cutie was such a fast tower climber? But Dreamy not having any of these killers, going to town with his pillar balls. What do you think about that use of items, Deme?
It is an interesting one. He's given up fighting in any other way, and so that might be a resource he wants to watch carefully. Rather than, since that is about his only fighting option, there are more avoidance options, and particularly he has taken a lot of care over the course of every white sand he's found onto that binding ball.
Right. I do know that Dreamy is particularly a fan of getting spell balls because he thinks about the density of resources that, yes, an Olim is very strong, wiping out any monster in a single throw, but it's a single-use item versus balls, which can have, which can start with up to 7 charges and can be buffed with those white sands, as you mentioned. Here, choosing to use a blinder ball, choosing not to wipe out one ball versus another, which would let him replace it without a problem. But some cases you do want that binding, some cases you do want that blinding.
That is right. RespectableFool had Kuhn take on a lot of those Manoivas, particularly as they spawned and respawned, feeding him. Oh no! Kuhn saw an enemy aggroed and did not keep going, and now is left wandering the place. Luckily, he manages to catch up to Kuhn, but that was a danger, and is a danger of keeping Kuhn on AI for the whole time. Worth noting that Dreamy, number one, teleported directly next to himself and into that monster, but also saw one of the few bits of this game's overall storyline in which a guy basically says, "Hey, I killed your father, come get me."
Right.
Which, funny enough, would save him time if he had to die or leave, but at that point there would be no getting up to this floor another way. But he is on the final 10 floors, and that's really exciting.
Definitely is. Dreamy is a member of the community for a longer period of time, but he is he does not have a sub-hour any percent time on the leaderboards, which meant he was eligible for this competition, and I'd be excited to see if he can make it to 40.
Looks like he will have to figure his way through this room in particular. I feel like killers are probably water monsters. They're monsters, which means that those killers are maybe a little less effective than he might hope, but I actually come to that do not know off the top of my head. My runs rarely take me up to killer floors. Quite so often.
They are fire monsters.
That makes sense. They're definitely not wind monsters, which is basically true of any monster that hits you real hard.
Yeah. Yekrep, my apologies if I've gotten your name wrong. I am in agreement there, and
they are just thick.
Yep. I'll also note that the spell level is dependent on coast level. It is coast level times 4, and so as Dreamy has stopped fighting, oftentimes if you were fighting your way through, you'd be at a little bit of a higher level, and so you might have a chance of taking out a killer with a single pillar ball shot. It's like Dreamy having a little bit more
technical issues. RespectableFool's Kyun is taking a lot of damage, and the situation is getting, in part because he is surrounded by these water monsters on these water floors. And those both deal more damage and take less damage from Kyun. Yep.
I do think that RespectableFool looked like he was considering using the Mazar Seed. I do think it was definitely a good idea that he held on to that. Once CUNY levels up, it's a great time to give him Mazar Seed, which will level up your familiar or yourself if you decide to use it on yourself.
That hurt on Dreamy's side.
Yeah.
And RespectableFool is not in such a great position either, sandwiched between two Manawivas.
Thankfully, one is a clone, which means it is a level 1 monster in this particular case. But, you're right. And getting warped right next to them.
No, it's a clone. Which suggests to me that it might not be. I feel like there's a possibility there were two Manawivas in the room when he spawned in it. And the U-boat. Because it was just that unpleasant a room. But we're going to see once he turns around and hits that. I am right, not a clone. Oh no! Dreamy goes down on floor 35. That is a shame. He just walked right into that golem's powerful fist.
Oh, you never want to see that. Don't know. That might have been his controller letting him down. It could be another rogue cat. As Poulet Sante has shown us that sometimes cats can make you walk right into vipers.
Yep. He's gonna show off one particular thing, which is that after you see Beldo, Nico does not come and wake you up. The storyline has gotten too serious for your childhood friend to wake you up every morning.
Yep. At least not without advancing her story a little bit, because if you've only seen what we've shown in the tournaments, you may not be aware.
I think I just lost Programmer here. What he was about to say, you might not be aware that this is a game with some strong dating sim elements in which you can go through the storylines of a couple of different young ladies in the town, woo them over, and eventually have them fight for your affections each morning. Which is a little weird, but alright. Certainly it was part of the draw for me liking sort of like character storyline based games as a kid, and this was one of the things that attracted my attention to this game in particular, of the games my older brother would play, and I would be so terrible at it.
Alright, looks like Dreamy is deciding that he needs a bit of a break, gonna continue laying face down there on that bed for a while, maybe take a moment to do a quick bio break, maybe grab a snack or some water.
Catch his breath.
Yeah.
And just ignore his little sister forever, as we all do. I suppose everyone with little sisters does anyway. Certainly my brother did.
Oh. Well, I had an older brother, and well, he was a little bit bossy, and but didn't ignore me too much. I think probably because it was more fun to tell me what to do or what have you. But you're not here for.
Yeah, mine didn't particularly either. That was more of a generalized gag. Much more fun to tease.
Sure.
Or fight with siblings over who gets to be Yoshi. That is an essential part of the childhood.
Yeah, that's that can definitely cause a fight. At least in Super Mario Kart.
That is in fact exactly what I was thinking.
So we see here RespectableFool coloring CUNY for safety, but pulling him back out. Maybe CUNY forgot something inside the bag, and RespectableFool is just letting him have a chance to grab his comb or something.
I think so. I think he was trying to decide whether or not he wanted to fight that bloom, because he definitely did not want to fight that bloom alone. Looks like he is going to get some HP back before heading up on that elevator, but it is worth noting that he can stand on the elevator and get that HP and then just feed it. But that is another mechanic that the game never expresses to you directly.
Right. So we see here RespectableFool choosing the steel sword over the wooden wand. I think his victory is now assured. This is a little bit of a gag we have in the community, if you're not familiar.
He can definitely beat a 4:35 run in the next 8 minutes now that he has the almighty power of the steel sword. That's how these things work, right?
Right. Well, to clue anyone in who wasn't familiar, there was a particular runner who chose the steel sword over the life wand, and she did win that match, correct?
I believe so. And these things always get enshrined as omens of victory, or omens of whatever you care for things to be omens of. I will say that RespectableFool is in a pugnacious mood tonight, going toe-to-toe with that U-boat, trying to preserve whatever inventory he has going on across these multiple runs. Probably because there's not a lot of it that is offensive, or that will even allow him to sidestep that U-boat.
Right. If he did feel like, dancing with the U-boat, he could have walked directly onto its space, and the U-boat would be forced to move, and he could have potentially used that to make his way over to the elevator without having to pick the fight. But as you mentioned, that pugnacious, brawly mood that he's in, he's just rearing for battle and making it up to floor 10, which is nice. Those first set of water floors from 6 to 9 are a hard set of floors to get through. The game definitely expects you to die at least starting floor 6, if not earlier, and making it past that absolute gauntlet of floors is no small achievement, so let's not forget that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. He has hit a cruising speed and at a relatively safe plateau with all these fire monsters and this floor, and of course the clowns. He has managed to overcome that initial loop he was in where he just could not find his footing and has now found his footing.
Yep, and we see here RespectableFool using that treasure loop to not only find treasure, but to inform him as to where the rooms are. He definitely, during his casual playthrough, was looking to get items and probably pick this up as a technique. I like to see that there's no sense in holding on to a loop like that early in Discovery on a floor, and there we go, has found his way to the elevator.
We will see what he can do with the remaining 5 minutes. He could manage to get at a decent height if he gets lucky with the elevators. But I do think that his tendency to fight everything he runs across will probably mean that we won't see too high into the teens, but it would be nice to see a little bit higher into the teens before the run ends.
Yep.
So, bearing this in mind, and what would be the best ways for him to get as much speed as possible besides what? What do you think would help him the most?
So, one thing that I've seen RespectableFool do comparatively little is pick up enemy monsters. And so for a crossbow troll like that, while it's by no means guaranteed, you do have a 5/8 chance, so better than 50-50, at being able to do a pickup, and it is a perfectly valid strategy to pick up a troll and just eat it in the opposite direction. Oftentimes, I've seen that runners...
Walking past the Holy Scroll, that's a little surprising to me, but I think he is definitely feeling the pressure of how little time remains.
Right. Is taking a moment to clear out a little bit of inventory space for the acid rain ball, but you're right. I'm sure that a RespectableFool has his eye on the clock, and yep, I think that he can perhaps employ the technique coined by Professor Palmer, known as YOLO fadering. Just, you've got only one chance now. Best to just make what you can of it, and yep, not even picking up that egg, so he doesn't have to tangle with that Newell. Just running.
Go all out, get as much possible. Don't worry about the future, because the future does not exist anymore. The future ends in 2 minutes.
I like that way of thinking. It's also the case of you've got you don't carry over the resources to the next seed, so if something's in your way, yeah, blow that Oleem, use that fireball, even use an acid rain for a single monster if it means that you can make it up one more floor, hey, to improve your 1 hour PB. That's worth it. And if you're measuring your progress against yourself, that's
absolutely.
Definitely...
Also, this is scary because his Cune will not defend him because Cune is in the doorway and monsters are weird about doorways. Room versus not room has a different sense of AI and a different aggro range and visibility. And that difference means that when you or when Kuhn is in a doorway and in trouble for whatever reason, Kuhn might not know what is going on in the room. Even though if it was in a hallway, he would know. It's very weird.
Yep.
Oh, SpeedGaming 3 is rating us with a party of 26. Hello, SpeedGaming 3 viewers. We are just about the end of this first seed. RespectableFool losing Kuhn, but probably does not care. At this point, it is just going to be the end of the line. Right. And so we'll get everyone ready for match 2, and Award bring me his formal point. I will be taking a brief pause to head on out before round 2, to get myself in order before round 2 begins, and we will be getting everything reset and ready to go for a new race. Okay, so you who were there with the raiding party, you came just in time.
Yep. The runners will be loading up Seed 2 here. This is a seeded tower run. Which means that the runners will have the same tower going in. We will be loading that up. And I will be messaging them. Unfortunately, I am a single core processor, so as I do so, you may get a little bit of verbal lag here.
Alrighty, I am back.
We've got some fans rooting for Jeff here, the RespectableFool, posting some Jeffs for good luck. I like to see that, because while we, the commentators, do not pick sides, we definitely do always want to see more Azure Dreams. And so, if that means forcing Game 3,
so it shall be. And it's also nice to see people enthused and cheering on friends and favorites in these matches. We can't. We are above such things at all times. And although I don't have a dog in this race, but any excitement you can get is good excitement. I admit, and these things can be very close and very intense. And let me check the seeds for 27.
Yep, I'm just
And I will say that while Dreamy managed to ride his excellent luck very far, or does not discredit what RespectableFool did. That was a very solid run, particularly with all the troubles he had going on. This game is a lot about how you deal with problems that will inevitably arise when you are faced with the sheer malice of 40 floors of death. Okay, 39 floors of death and 1 floor of sometimes gauche.
Yes, and in some ways, some people think about this a little bit like a puzzle game in that respect. You've got to use all of the tools in your toolkit to figure out how do I get through this situation while using the fewest resources possible.
Yep. But I always liken it to a game of poker in this respect, namely that in poker, a good player and a bad player will have the same number of hands, or the same number of good or bad hands. At the end of the day, what's important isn't necessarily the hand you get, though always feel free to laugh as luck decides it's not going to be a lady. Luck is going to be a street urchin and do who knows what while your back is turned. Oh no. But it is always fun to laugh at luck. It is always fun to recognize that your opponent is always going to be the tower, and is always going to be the previous version of you, who maybe didn't recognize the opportunity to keep fighting, did not recognize the thing you could have used to end the situation. But I will cease my pontificating for a moment as the runners are now ready for their countdown.
Yep.
And they will be off in just a moment.
Yep. We like to start timing outside of Ko's house. One of the nice features of the randomizer is that we can skip this introduction, and there's a long set of perhaps 4 minutes of story that you'd otherwise have to sit through. So we skip right past that. In previous games, we have also streamlined the first tutorial floor, putting all of the items right in front of you and turning off all of the blabbing from CUNY. In this race, we want to let the runners have a chance to practice as if they were going to do any ordinary random
any percent run.
Yes.
These don't count as proper any percent runs because they have a seed, and because it is better to have a consistent policy about seeded runs, though naturally these players have not had the chance to see these seeds before now.
Right. I fully created them just before getting started. And so if they run into some bad luck or some great luck, feel free to blame me either way. Or always
Sam and I would not have put those Garudas in, or that Roche fruit in that last seed. You're soft, programmer. You're soft. Well, maybe you just wanted a chance to show off to the folks at home who might also be new to Azure Dreams how much fun one can have zooming around on a Garuda. And using an offbeat monster who, if you're playing casually, you might not think of. The community didn't necessarily have the right estimation of Garuda right away until we realized just how cheap its ability is, primarily. The power of it was clear, the cheapness of it was not, and that is really something. To a point where we've divided up a couple of categories for speedrunning based purely on whether or not Garudas are allowed, and balloons. Balloons are particularly useful in bookless runs where you have a lot more opportunity to build up its level and use its ability to climb up floors based on its level, which, now that I say that, actually, That would be a thing to think about in a run like this, actually. Because a balloon's ability can take you up to a floor matching its level, and levels are maintained between. Oh man, they are at camera angles. There on RespectableFool side, and that is slightly dizzying.
I happen to be able to play just fine with the camera tilted 45 degrees, but I know that some people will absolutely pillory me for doing that. We see running into a big old monster train coming RespectableFool's way. I'd be tempted to...
thing you want to deal with.
Right.
A flame. This is going to happen, though, or quote on both sides and see how they deal with it. Did RespectableFool just send Q? Okay, he just collared Q normally. He did not send Q, no. Though there is a glitch you can use. Why are you getting Q now, RespectableFool?
Anyway. I think that he's feeling that pugnacious spirit. I would perhaps use a fireball in this particular case. Yep, and RespectableFool's doing just that. Yeah, getting that first level, very important. Massive HP boost to Co, taking him from a max of 16 to 26 health. And now using that Q...
Sort of filtered out into the hallway, letting some sleeping monsters lie rather than fighting them quite at the same pace. That is at least what it looked like to me as I glanced back and forth between them. It looks like he is trying to gain some HP back, but in a weird way that, or he is having more controller difficulties, which this really does look like, because it is not an efficient manner. Yep, there he goes.
And meanwhile, we saw a very precarious situation on RespectableFool's side. His CUNY getting down to just 2 HP before he was able to dispatch that flame and then use a medicinal herb to heal up his CUNY. Oftentimes that medicinal ends up going to Co at some point, but RespectableFool using his resources very wisely there. I like that play.
Keeping Q early is, oh no, and that is exactly, that should not have worked out that way. That mechanic does not normally work like that, but here, Dreamy takes the risk of following after, and it pays off improbably.
Yeah.
We probably want to tell him later that should not have worked, but it did, and good for him. But that is one of the reasons why you generally keep Kyun behind you, so that you don't teleport off, that it doesn't teleport to who even knows where, so that if anyone is being teleported away, it's you most of the time, and you can tell Kyun to sit and wait for you.
Right. Although I suppose that if you're the one warping off, you don't have the option to step on the warp trap and find yourself right next to CUNY if the tower decides to be nice for once.
And the same thing happens on RespectableFool's side. Let's see what he does to solve the situation. Right now, he is still letting Kyun wander off. This would be a great time to switch to AI1 if he was there. If he was thinking of that. But as it stands, we'll have to hope he can reach the elevator or Kyun before something happens to Kyun.
Right, and he had already come across the elevator, so he knew exactly where he needed to go. And he knows that he can just run on up. A very smart play there, because he doesn't know where CUNY is, but he did know where the elevator was, making that the safer play. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I think that is a good decision, and quite the handy one in situations like these.
Yep. So these two monsters should not give RespectableFool any trouble. Meanwhile, we see Dreamy coming across a loop there. I believe that was a
trap loop, I think, which he might want to use given the amount of difficulty he's had. But then again, he has explored this floor a little bit more. Respectable Fool finding a trap scroll. One of those scrolls.
They're doing a virtual high five right there as they trigger the same trap next to the elevator.
Rumi having explored enough of the floor already to check out exactly what that is. I don't remember if he picked up the trap scroll or not. It's not one of the more useful scrolls you can have.
Right. It comes up with such a rare frequency because I do believe it was intended specifically for the second tower. The second tower has a much higher spawn rate, and because items are unidentified, you may, hope, I hope this is a holy scroll, and all of a sudden you find out, oh no, it's something that hides all of the traps that you had painstakingly uncovered in your journey. Hope you remember where they were.
Yep. Certainly not a pleasant thing to stumble into accidentally. Yeah. The second tower and the number of things that seem to have been made for it that are left in with no other purpose is a really interesting thing. And a curious blood. This game's development history is something I would love to hear more about, because it seems to have gone down a strange road somewhere along the line. Taking a moment to, who knows, take care of an emergency, continue adjusting his troublesome controller, we will eventually see what that situation ends up being.
Yep. So we saw
Respectable Fool some time to catch up and maybe even overtake him.
Yeah.
What just happened there?
We may. I think that's just when Dreamy switches off to adjust something. We lose the stream temporarily. No troubles though. So we saw Respectable Fool pause there at that hallway with the flame. I believe he was hoping that he was outside of the flame's vision, and he knew that monsters, if not aggroed, will take the path in the hallway that basically keeps their left hand, if they have hands, on the wall.
Spike, appendage, limb, or other feature.
Oh boy, these flames are out for blood. As CUNY's getting a little bit battered here on Respectable Fool's side. Meanwhile, Dreamy is going toe-to-toe with the balloon. Balloons are one of those enemies that I always find they've got far too much attack for the level you encounter them on. Or for
they are surprisingly hard hitters sometimes, particularly if you've still got that wooden shield. I have not seen a whole lot of gear on either side, though there have been some nice items at the very least.
Right, yes. This seat has been considerably more stingy with equipment, but we are only on the 4th or 5th floor, so hopefully we will see some better things as we go.
True, though the 5th floor is about the floor where you ultimately want to like, or at least where I generally, it's the last floor I really explore as opposed to dash for the elevator as best I can, because it is the last floor that's like not predominantly water monsters for a while. And so this is around the part where I kind of start committing to my equipment.
Right, that makes sense. We did see that Dreamy picked up a nice +1 steel shield, so that's got the equivalent defense of a diamond shield. Always nice to have. I'll note that Respectable Fool taking a little bit more time to explore the entirety of the 4th floor, while Dreamy, having seen enough of floor 5, is taking that go-up trap, boinging his way up to the 6th floor, and just dashing on through.
Again, there was not a lot there at first. He is finding where the Manaweavers were hiding, but luckily will be able to get away from them.
Yep. That's one of the things that I liked from Dreamy this game is he's made a liberal use of that circle button to dash when monsters haven't been around. It can be a little bit more perilous, as you could take one step too far, and as a result, find yourself coming face to face with an enemy much sooner. But he seems to be confident in his play, and that Steel Shield, they're proving its mettle in a literal sense, and letting him go toe-to-toe against that Bloom, although that second Bloom coming up from behind means that he is going to have to run. Does find the elevator onto floor 8, and I didn't notice that at first. RespectableFool and floor 5, they both started in a room with only one exit, which does at least help reduce some of that arbitrariness between which routes they took out.
Fortunate. Now, he can clear that cloud out pretty easily. But this is not a place where you want to be separated from Kuhn with so much still to go.
Yeah, this
he is also not telling Kuhn to stay, which is pretty unfortunate, given that he knows where Kuhn is. Ooh. And there it goes. He is going to have to run this Kuhnless, and he did not have a backup egg at this point.
Beyond the Palumpa, at least.
A good backup egg. Palumpa is not so much a backup egg as it is a convenient multi-tool.
Yes.
Oh no, also using the go-up trap around RespectableFool, who has chosen the name Oh No.
So we see Dreamy now on floor 9. This is a tournament which, as we saw in the previous match, does allow, or in this previous game, I should say, which does allow you to re-enter. So if Dreamy comes across a Wind Crystal, if he doesn't already have one in his inventory, he could leave, keep the equipment that he already has, and re-enter with CUNY. He'd be restricted to taking only 5 items back into the tower with him, but he is forging ahead, going to perhaps take on the streaming from the high ground. And I'll note for anyone who's watching chat that while RespectableFool is one of many members of the DPad, we've got Rick on the DPad FM handle tonight, so don't worry, no screen watching going on here. The Azure Dreams community, that's one of the things I like about it. Everyone's friendly. Everyone is just here to have a good time. And tell me, Deme, where could I learn how I could join this wonderful Azure Dreams community?
I'm glad you asked. You can always check out our Discord. I will be linking it in just someone programmer, you have done this for me. Thank you for the convenience. We have all sorts of things here. We have links to a variety of resources, including a new damage calculator, which is pretty handy and can tell you all sorts of things about whether or not you should fight that. The answer is usually no, but maybe sometimes it'll be yes. It'll be a fun surprise you can learn about before you learn about it by dying.
Yes.
You can also learn more about the de-randomizing randomizer, or perhaps the randomizing de-randomizer that we use here in primarily its de-randomizing function.
Right, but it does have a number of other both randomizing functions as well as things to otherwise change up the experience. You can get portable elevators in your game. You can have
Go to the second tower.
Yes. You can even create your own custom floors using a floor editor or custom palettes. That was an accessibility feature I added to this game because a player who was colorblind noted that he was having trouble telling some of the monster elements apart when using the random elements function. So you can create.
That is very cool.
Yep, and you can even just use it if you want to get. Ooh, that warp trap has.
A warp trap. Warp traps have been vicious this sour seed.
Now he does have a familiar bell, if I recall correctly, so he can use that to warp CUNY right on back to him if he remembers he has it, and if he has not discarded it, and if my memory is not faulty.
That's a lot of ifs. If I have a sneaking suspicion.
Yep, there it is.
Still has it. So, will he notice it? That is the question of the day.
Oh, he's got the elevator right on here, so no need for that. He can save that. And he may have even been...
+2, that's pretty good.
Not bad. He may have even been, since the warp trap was right next to the elevator and he knew where that was, he may have even been choosing to wait for the first notification that CUNY was in battle before deciding to use it, or hoping to make his way over back to CUNY otherwise, which saved him a resource. So for the next warp trap, he can use it.
Right, because we do know there is another one coming up. Could run into, and that would be very if it went the same way.
Right. Now, although the randomizer does let you set custom amounts of traps, and you can turn the warp traps up to 11 if you so choose, I promise you that I have not done so for this for these seeds. So this is all the tower. A little bit of a perilous side here on
Dreamy in a bad situation. What can you do at this point? Use that medicinal herb. Very sensible, but he still has 2 volcanoes, and they whittle that down in no time.
Right, he's got to one-hit KO this. I think that I would probably, the Plumpa Egg. The Plumpa can miss, or choose to fight against the rock.
So
and
he is going to have to re-enter. He is going to lose that shield.
Now,
it is a best 2 out of 3. Nobody, basically. Basically, it is the highest floor reached in an hour is the winner. First, if it's a tie, whoever reaches it first, if it's a tie, and it is a best out of 3 match to really equalize out some of that randomness that can impact how difficult a run is, and really change up the result. It's giving everyone the biggest fighting chance they can get here.
Right.
Dreamy did remember to get it Kuhn from the Monster Hut. Luckily, we are seeing more and more runners remember that. That is very fortunate.
I can't tell you the number of times I personally have forgotten it, but then again, I'm not even in this tournament. Not because I'm too good. I would say quite the opposite. But we do see. There's that warp trap, and he knows that CUNY is in trouble.
We didn't see.
Yep,
he's using that familiar bell. So very glad probably that he didn't use it earlier.
Yes, that was lovely decision making earlier on. I was beginning to question it when I first saw it on the previous floor, but I think RespectableFool knew exactly what he was doing there, and I compliment him on his great play. Is interesting that he considered going the other way, scout more resources, or was perhaps unsure whether there were monsters still in that elevator room, heading straight on over now. And
yeah, once he saw the bloom and the mana weaver coming, he decided, maybe I will just. And now he's deciding that since they have gone the other way in that split, that he is going to discover the presence of that copper coin and realize that that was not an efficient use of his time after all. Which is a little bit of a bummer, I'm sure, but nothing he cannot recover from.
Oh yes, he'll gain back that HP rather quickly here. Is interesting that he is thoroughly exploring floor 7.
I don't know if I would normally explore this thoroughly if given the opportunity, but and that wooden wand Dreamy found is cursed. He is going to be attached to that and will also suffer a hidden status effect the game never tells you about.
Yeah, I think at that point I would just have CUNY use bread on me and try again.
Possibility.
Yep.
Also, he is fighting Ghosh. That is interesting.
Yep. Fighting Ghosh will give you a medicinal herb, as we see here, and possibly also Wind Crystal, as we've also seen. So,
he might, if I were him, I might use that Wind Crystal.
Yeah, I would do the same, but we see him waiting by the elevator to gain back some HP before going up, so he's going for it. I know Dreamy likes to go fast, and going backwards isn't going fast, so I guess we see him running forward. Grabbing a CC there.
Perhaps that just around any corner, there will be an item which completely validates his decision, which he would otherwise horribly regret. That is the fun of Azure Dreams.
Quite. Meanwhile, we see, as a result of some of that fighting that RespectableFool has done, he's now up to level 7, and choosing to give the Hezek Seed to CUNY. Now, ordinarily, I would recommend putting the Hezek Seed on Ko, just because you tend to use Mixture Magic quite a bit, but given the style of fighting that we've seen from RespectableFool, where he's not afraid to use AI4, have CUNY do some fighting that's not the questionable decision. I would say it would be if another runner did it. And that's one of the things that I love about this tournament. We're getting to see new runner styles. And I discover players who have strategies that some of us might not think about. I thought about a player like Chai, who made it quite a pie.
That was a fantastic run the other night. I'm sure, or someone in the Azure Dreams Discord can find the archive for anyone who would want to look up on how that pure edge of your seat style run the other day went. The first match of the tournament meant. Dreamy, by the way, while we're talking about not being afraid to have Kuhn do some fighting, Dreamy was getting a lot of use out of AI1 to soften up some monsters while he was low on HP and low especially on defensive power.
Right, and you're at no point are you have less defensive power as when you are a frog. because that will essentially double the damage that you take.
Oh, that is a lot of monsters.
Oh yes,
That is
goodness.
a lot of monsters.
And while not all of them are awake, enough of them are. That is quite a bit of damage there. Dreamy using CUNY, the AI one, as you mentioned, to soften up those monsters. I really like this play. Able to minimize further damage that he takes and ensure that he is not going to be taken out and even take any more damage than he needs to.
Right, he managed to back away from that position where he was on the low ground relative to his opponents, and that's really paying off. He is managing to fight his way out of this very intimidating room full of monsters, and that is just some very good play.
Oh yeah, I think that I would have looked at that, looked at the wind crystal in my inventory, and would have said, "Yeah, I'm out of here." We see RespectableFool now up on floor 9. Dreamy had made it to floor 12, so if Dreamy does not exceed that, RespectableFool will have to make it to floor 13.
But that's certainly doable from where he is standing right now. He probably does not like that rust trap with his abilities. Dreamy knows what to do when his monsters get confused. Knows to just pick him up and hold him until it passes. Because your monster being confused, particularly on a second or third entry, is a terrifying prospect to be facing if you don't know that you can just hold him.
Yeah, and I mean,
does that suffer from the usual 30, I think it's like a 38% chance of the monster deciding, no, I don't want this. RespectableFool did run out. He has, I think, still a Peter fruit in reserve after the first one, too, and that good advice for all the direct fighting he has can do.
Right. And so, to answer your question, no, because as you're familiar, you will still be able to pick it up with 100% success. And I think that's just good advice in general, that if someone's confused, a close friend, just hold them. They'll recover from their confusion, and you can go back to being friends again. We see RespectableFool.
Don't ask Kuhn. Kuhn's opinions don't matter. Real people's do.
That is true. Yes, you should make sure that you have it is consensual holding. We only encourage that here. So, RespectableFool here on the elevator up to floor 10, doing a little bit of inventory management. This is the best place to do that. Now that has a code says
egg in that floor there, or did he pick it up while we were looking at RespectableFool? There we go. That might not have been the same egg, but it might have. It looks like he is going to be lucky. Well, actually, this is the same room that Dreamy got, so it's not so much luck as it is circumstances bringing him to a floor 10, and with the elevator right there here.
Yep. That lowdown, unfortunately, bringing him to just the top of level 7, so he will get back to level 8, but will have lost any experience that he had built up, which, looking at CUNY's experience, wasn't too much, so that lowdown not proving to be a serious impediment to CUNY. I do like this choice there to feed that Pita fruit, knowing that CUNY could fully use all of those 50 MP, making sure that you've got a cleaner inventory. You never want to find a great item that's one square away while you've got a monster train, pick it up, and then need to use something, but can't because you're holding the item and can't put it into your inventory.
Yeah, that is always a shame, because action economy is really the most basic tool in anyone's belt. It is the essential tool.
Right. Interesting play there from Dreamy, going ahead and throwing that light seat at the U-boat that changes it from water to fire. So CUNY was no longer fighting with the elemental disadvantage. Warp trap, but landing right next to the elevator.
I might have tried grabbing and picking up those glasses before the Bloom stepped on it, but it's not that big of a deal, and the elevator whisked him away to a place that's a little less, that's not really all that much safer, but at least he has Q with him.
Yeah, and together there's nothing they can't accomplish, except for perhaps fixing that pesky controller. Kuhn's powers don't extend there. So a respectable fool now coming across a volcano and a clown. Looks like he's weighing whether he wants to fight, perhaps deciding if he has a good item, and he goes with the water straps. Now, these are relatively newer strats that, by changing CUNY to water, he is now strong against fire monsters, but weaker against wind monsters. But because wind monsters tend to be the weakest monsters in the tower, and fire and water tend to be the most threatening, using a water CUNY is definitely a great way to go. At least once you've reached up to level 9, 10, 11, somewhere thereabouts, where that spell level growth is no longer an issue.
Right. Like any sort of leveling up in this game, one does get diminishing returns with its spell level ups as well, and so it becomes not that big of an obstacle, and particularly since... No, I'm thinking of a different time, or rather, I'm thinking of the spell and mistaking it for the sword, because Blizzard Sword and Blizzard Sword, basically.
Yeah. Yes, that can be quite confusing. We see here Respectable Fool taking a moment to fight that Dreamin. While he no longer has the elemental advantage, Dreamins are quite weak, do give a decent amount of experience at 56, or 14, sorry. I'm thinking of a different monster. And by themselves, not too much of a threat.
Hi, that is a Dreamy is in.
Yes. Thankfully, the clown at least is asleep, but the U-boat is not until
the U-boat is now.
all is fired. Now, this is an interesting choice to actually go ahead and take on the U-boat. I probably would have hightailed it out of there, but Dreamy perhaps wanted to see if he could get a little bit of XP, or
use that door. I think, now that I see what I think he's doing, I wonder if he is using the doorway as a wedge deliberately to try and keep him from getting too overwhelmed, or if that is just the circumstances that allow him to back away a little bit and use his monster a little bit more appropriate. He has reached the end of that flame ball, and in a melee is never the time you want to find out that you're at the end of a ball's usage.
Thankfully, only in melee with the Dreamin there, and Dreamy having no problems cleaning up the rest of these monsters, and getting some XP and a Holy Scroll for his troubles. So he did have to use some resources there, but all in all, any exchange that you walk away from, I say is a good exchange.
I do think so. And here, Respectable Fool dodges yet another warp trap by using a trap loop and uncovering it in time.
Yes, he's gotten great mileage out of that trap loop. He's every trap you uncover gives you 8 XP, only to Ko. Doesn't also extend to CUNY, but it does count for something. And avoiding those dangerous traps has meant that his climb has been uninterrupted. As Respectable Fool has not had to leave the tower this run.
Yep. That said, Dreamy is now catching back up with Respectable Fool, even with that little hiccup of an early departure.
Right, and of course...
So, any lead Respectable Fool has, he is going to have to defend once he starts getting to making the new highest floor.
Right, because of course Dreamy still does hold that at floor 12, he does have the opportunity to push that higher, as he is now on the same floor as Respectable Fool, at least for the moment. So Respectable Fool making a reasonable choice here to continue fighting some Dreamins, because generally, you're not doing quite as much fighting on the water floors, and level 10 is a pretty good place to be.
Dreaming egg, not really the best sort of egg to find, though it does still have all of the multi-tool uses of an egg. This is a really tight, close race, and it could be anyone's game. Finding a water crystal, that is one of the more useful crystals. I have always sort of found fire crystals to be disappointing.
Oh yes, because not only do they not does the salamander that you summon not increase with level, there's no scaling, but also it has potential to soft lock your game, so that's always fun.
Right.
Dreamy has now ascended to floor 12, as Respectable Fool stands at the threshold for doing the same. So this is keeping me quite on the edge of my seat. I'm excited to see who's...
It's a close match. Now, I think I saw Dreamy using a C-Seed, but so it looks like he has also gone with a water...
Yep. He absolutely has. He's using a wand as opposed to the iron sword that a Respectable Fool is rocking. Respectable Fool does have a few levels, and it is at least a +0 iron sword, so compared to the -1 wand that Dreamy has.
Dreamy did find a Scorch Shield, which I think, for about the reasons we've talked about already, is in many ways one of the less useful elemental shields. While fire monsters are great to have an even defensive with, and any shield is better than no shield, he will be taking extra damage from water monsters, and that is gonna be a little bit of a problem.
Right, especially as he comes up against threats like the Snule or Krakens, but I think he's using strategies like that AI1 QD and something that we saw him use earlier, simple monster manipulation, to let him avoid fights altogether. So I have no doubt.
Is very solid this match. He has raised the bar for what the highest floor is. Rez had retaken his lead as if nothing happened, basically.
Right. But Respectable Fool, I do believe, did find, if I'm not mistaken, I think he did come across the elevator. I believe it was in the same room as that blue collar. Here using Fighter CUNY on AI 4 to not have to take any additional hits on his own character, given that he is below half HP. Not a bad move.
Yep. Kuhn's HP is as much of a resource as Ko's HP. The one that I think often people are a little reluctant to use, if only because losing Kuhn really does make things a lot harder, but if you lose Ko, what does it matter if you kept Kuhn?
Right, and using a water Kuhn in this case does mean that he was taking significantly less damage from those fire-based volcanoes and able to deal out more damage in return. So they're also paying attention to the elemental advantage, makes it even more of an understandable choice. We see Dreamy closing the prompt, heading up to floor 14, spawning in the room with the elevator, and yep, taking that right on up, while RespectableFool takes a brief nap before presumably heading on to 13 himself.
Yeah, look, it looks like they both got hit by traps before going up onto higher floors, and then relatively recently, Dreamy with that 13 to 14 frog trap, and RespectableFool with this 12 to 13 sleep trap. It's a trap happy erase this map.
Yeah, it definitely is. And once again, I will plead utter innocence. We see RespectableFool changing the topic abruptly. We do see Dreamy there using his pillar ball on that Garuda. I don't believe the Garuda will abduct you away from your familiar, but it can abduct your familiar away from you if it does get into melee.
Yeah, Dreamy getting a momentary confusion about which flame ball still has uses, and so he dropped that one, which he previously did not drop, hoping probably, or at least hoping maybe to find a white sand to revive it a little bit. But now he's deciding that the confusion is not worth the cost. RespectableFool bagging Kuhn for a little bit, is pincered between a couple of monsters and going to have to figure his way out of this one. Right,
and is taking a rise from a griffin. That does do a decent amount of damage, although I never thought I'd be saying this. Thankfully, he hit the Kraken behind him would actually take any spells that the Griffin would try to cast from this point on, and he does know where the elevator is, having previously found it, so he does know which direction he needs to go. It's just a question of can he make it there without running into another monster that wants to cause this run to come to an abrupt end.
Yep. Dreamy... Wait. Did Dreamy get separated from Kuhn? Yes, he did.
And Kuhn is down. Now, Kuhn is down, but Dreamy is...
that curse wand that he still has not freed himself from.
Right, and that's also a -1 shield.
It's a +1 shield.
Oh, my apologies.
I think so. I think he definitely used a blue sand. It is definitely a something one. Yep, it is a +1.
So,
Oh, what a disappointing bit of warping. April, wrong. If you were not quite so surrounded by enemies, that would come in very handy right about now. But as he is surrounded by enemies, or at least is about to be surrounded, he does have to figure out, oh, I bet he wishes he had a familiar. He had that just a few minutes ago. That would have made a load of difference.
Yeah, when I saw that warp trap, and then the eating of the troll, I couldn't help but think about the warps behind you meme, or teleports behind you. You know, you are already dead. Meanwhile, we see RespectableFool trying to figure out what resource to use, knowing that he doesn't want to take on that Kraken in a direct fight, given that it will use its electroshock talent to reflect some damage back to him. Holy Bell lets him end that encounter peacefully, although at the cost of a pretty powerful resource. But if you've got no other option, the game is just taunting Dreamy here. First with the familiar bell that he needed a little bit earlier, and then the slam trap on his way over to the elevator, but still making it up to 17 and now 18. Dreamy is not stopping.
Make no sense in stopping with just a little over 10 minutes left on the clock.
Yep.
Slowing down. Oh, this is bad. This is one of the scenarios you don't want to be in. For
sure. Now, once that enemy is asleep, pickup is 100% guaranteed. But he is choosing to instead go for pickup there. Now, what probably happened is if you were in melee with a monster or you're in the same room with it, it does have a 1 in 8 chance of waking up that will use its turn if it's not an Atlas, just like Gen 1 Pokemon. But it does mean that sleep ball didn't prove to be helpful, at least with the second use. The first usage definitely perfectly
usage was
respectable.
enough to get him out of the situation. Picket using the item that allows you to be like a Picket. It wants no impersonators, no imposters, and no tricks.
Yep. RespectableFool puzzling over this maneuver here, deciding to go with AI3. He is fighting on an even elemental ground, given that he is using a water spell against a water monster, able to take it out in 2 hits. I like that use of switching back to mixture magic there. It'd be nice if that trap went off on that Kraken. Not sure if that was a steel or frog trap, but it doesn't matter.
Shield. Oh, to avoid the extra damage from the Arachne.
Yep.
That makes sense. Because you wouldn't look at it, oh wow, that is a lot of spiders. That is a lot of spiders.
3 spiders in front of you, 1 behind. I don't know the collective noun for arachnes.
That is a good question.
I think it's a nope of spiders. I believe that's the corrective noun.
Nope of spiders or web of spiders? You know, that is, of course, always a good question. I'm going to suggest that for its arachne, it's a nope.
Okay.
Regardless of one's feelings about real spiders. Because that's telling you it's too much. Arachnes are incredibly heavy hitters. They are a monster that, like, if you find an arachne egg or an arachne a roche fruit, it's another one that's like, yes, this is perfect. I am on easy street for a little while because arachne can just kill its way through anything, basically. Basically, with a double attack power, there is few things that can stop it.
Now, That's a little bit of an unfortunate situation there on RespectableFool side. Losing CUNY, probably due to the bad descriptions of the items in this game. The water's ball gives the protection of water, which the game means to say that it gives it protection against fire elements as if you were water, rather than protection against water. It's one of many items that has a confusing description, like the water crystal, which does not refill your HP at all, only your familiars.
Right.
Ooh, nut fruit. That could help get RespectableFool out of this jam. I'd be... Oh, and he's gotten the pickup. That's definitely a good option here. I'd be tempted to walk with that Garuda. He's
now walking right into a pincer, which could become a very unpleasant thing. Dreamy finding that sweet bomb he's relying on is now officially out of use.
I'd be tempted to use a medicinal here on RespectableFool's side, to take at least one extra hit from that Newell, but I don't know that even that would be enough to be able to get out of that situation. Perhaps the Tumna on the Newell would buy him some time, but this is just a rough place. Meanwhile, Dreamy is rocketing through Viper Town, already on the last floor of it. Floor 24 is the last floor we see Vipers. And shows no signs of stopping, but it's easy to not stop when you're not in quite the pickle that RespectableFool is in.
Right, that is just an unpleasant set of circumstances, and he is choosing to walk out with his dignity and his head held high as opposed to going back onto his bed of defeat. Though at this point, this is as good as he is going to get, which means that DAdam takes the point and is the winner of this best of 3 match.
We will ping Dreamy here and let him know that he has taken game 2. If our players are up for it, we may get to see a friendly third.
Yeah, that would be a fun prospect. We don't see a lot of these in this tournament thus far, if only because these matches do run the full hour. There's no sudden, abrupt floor 2 end race. And while we are waiting, I will inform you all that the collective noun for a group of spiders is a clutter or a cluster. I think cluster has a bit more of a sinister ring, and so I'm going to say that is my preference of collective nouns, though I think a nope is still good for arachnid.
And thank you for giving us the facts here. We saw some people in chat who are just here for spider facts, so hopefully that will do you for today.
Yep, we will be seeing. It looks like we will not be seeing a friendly third. Understandably, it's quite late. Late for a full another hour of a match. It looks like Dreamy is able to interview, and
yep.
I can't tell if RespectableFool is.
All right, I've sent a link over to.
Is saying yes to an interview.
Great. I've sent the links over, and hopefully they'll be joining us in voice in just a moment. Hey, Dreamy.
Hello.
Congrats. GG.
Thank you. Man, that was a strange set of games, let me tell you.
What's a bit? How did you enjoy your trip around the Garuda Express? It's a shame that got cut short.
Oh my god, that
line.
So I just had to fix a bunch of stuff on my PC, and I didn't realize until like 20 minutes before the match that, oh yeah, half the stuff that I used for this is like maybe not on the hard drive. So I had to like scramble to get everything set up. And so I was using this like dinky 2-inch cord for my controller, and it would every time it would like jiggle out, I would have to totally reset my emulator and come back. So it kept throwing me off. And that first game, I got the roche fruit early, and so I was really, really confident. I think I posted being like, "Hey, is Groot okay? Because I'm about to go." And I got an answer like just as I was hitting the Garuda floors. I got the Garuda, and then immediately found another Garuda egg, and I'm like, "All right, I have like a stacked inventory. This is my game." And I hatched the Garuda, the second Garuda, just as a safety thing, because I was like, if I have to hatch this later, it's going to be a disaster. So, and then I was hitting just every elevator so fast. I was like, this is it. I'm going right to 40. I'd been playing really slow early on, but I was like, I'm going to go so fast at this point. It doesn't matter. And then I forgot to unplug my external hard drive, and it dinged me and stopped my music. And I had to fix my controller, take my hard drive out, and reset my music. And I tabbed back in and just rushed instead of like taking my time like I probably would have, and ran right into that golem. And I was just like, I'm so dumb. I threw away an easy 40.
Do happen. It was rough. It was a little rough to watch, but it was still a very fun run. And so, how about them warp track?
Yeah, what a game. Oh my god. And then, man, that second game, I died really early to some bad luck. And then that second tower, second game, I kept spawning into the most insanely filled monster. I don't think I've ever seen like a regular run that wasn't like a monster den that would have such insane spawns in those rooms. I don't know if anybody had noticed other than me.
We noticed, and we were really impressed by how you took those on.
Yes, and speaking of running into lots of monsters, I saw Jeff. First off, GG. Thank you for joining.
GG, buddy.
GG.
And you dealt with some pretty heavy monster spawns yourself. And I really was impressed by your improvement from game 1 to game 2. You showed us that you had what it takes to climb up without having to wind crystal out until pretty much I think that was like the 55-minute mark there. So
yeah, I was attempting to kind of the both of these runs tonight were, I'll say embarrassing. I don't mean in like a bad way. I just mean in a way that, it highlights a lot of things that, I practiced here or there and was like, it probably won't be relevant, and I won't have to worry about controls, and I won't make a mistake. But oh yeah, that first run just put me on tilt. I'm pretty sure I accidentally returned instead of collaring Queen at some point.
Oh,
I think
no.
I was just trying to save mana or something like that, and my very, very first run, I died. So like I don't even I did not even know that there was a roche fruit in the tower whatsoever.
right.
Yeah, you got really unlucky because it wasn't too high up either. It was sitting right on an elevator.
Oh, for real? Oh,
yeah,
man.
and then legitimately, I think it was around 13 or 14. There was a Garuda egg sitting on the elevator too. It just like handed it to me.
Okay.
The second one was definitely a little brutal.
Jeez.
Right. And the second one was pretty close. That Dreamy, you had dropped out of the tower the first go round on floor 12, and I think RespectableFool, Jeff, you had made it up to floor 11 before Dreamy came back to hit floor 12 again. So it was pretty close there for some time. Found it a really enjoyable race to watch, and I encourage you to go back and
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching it. I died. It was so dumb. I died to that. I lost my familiar to the warp trap in that second game, and I'm like, okay, well, we're allowed to re-enter, and I had a really good shield. I'm like, I'm just gonna try and grab a wind crystal and get out and accept that this one's a wash, and then come back. And I could not for the life of me find a friggin' wind crystal. I passed up so many, and then it was just that's it. And I came back in, and I think I spent 20 floors without a friggin' shield. It was so dumb.
Yeah,
It was quite a wild shieldless, and I will say that even if you hadn't have tuned on that warp trap, there were so many others.
Oh,
Yeah.
This was the world's most like even across multiple towers. This was ultimately the most warp trap happy seed I have seen in a long time.
Jesus.
I know I shouldn't have put that Groot in charge of making those seeds.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the only dangerous trap. I did feel bad for you, Jeff, when you were one step away from the elevator when you stepped on a monster den.
Yeah, that was the first run, I believe.
Yeah.
I got tilted because I killed myself very early at the very beginning, just trying to auto attack through and get through the first couple floors. And I kind of put it back together a little bit and was starting to make some progress. And then on the one good looking run, that monster den, I think I don't remember exactly what floor it was on, but that one was looking good. And when that happened, from being tilted from the first one, I didn't think about any techniques. Later I remembered that Oleams existed, which is a good thing to remember during Azure Dream speed runs. But I think I had one the first time or something, or
yeah,
I don't know.
I think you could have potentially pushed the monster that was on top of the elevator.
Oh, the balloon.
If there wasn't another monster behind it, but I have the privilege of sitting here in my commentary booth and pontificating on what could or couldn't be done. But as you mentioned about being tilted from previous runs, it's a really different experience when you're actually racing. And it's to your credit that you came back in game 2 and showed us what you were made of.
Oh, thank you.
That was some really impressive just resilience, I think, from both of you, because it can get so easy to hit a spiral.
Oh yeah,
get your footing.
That first game,
your groove.
That first game when I died, I think I didn't even realize it was like a re-entry thing. And yeah, programmer was like, "Oh, you can go back in if you want," and I was like, "Nope, not after that." I was like, I accept it. You know what? If he beat me on that run, that's it.
Well, so that was the interesting thing about my first run, is that I had initially gone into this sort of planning for the re-entry, and in some of my practice runs on totally random seeds, I would kind of bulldog through the first couple floors, get queen up to level 5, level 6 maybe, and then the first wind crystal I saw, just book it with whatever good equipment I had, and just do it again with queen at 5 from the base of the tower. But then after doing so poorly on the first run and everything going wrong and forgetting everything I know, on the second run, I didn't really think about re-entry for some reason. I think that second run was a single run. I didn't die at all until the very end.
That's correct.
Yeah.
You only wind crystaled out of there at floor 15 at pretty much the end, and maybe not thinking about re-entry there was to your credit because you got at least within this set of tournament games your high floor PB, which 15, as we were saying, is nothing to scoff at. You're getting past those dangerous water floors in 6 to
Getting
9.
past the Kraken department, which no
Oh
one
my
likes to
God.
be in.
Yep.
That's no
Yes.
fun. Yeah, I think it was a vast improvement from the first to the second one. You know, having actually performed like in the pressure of the tournament and stuff, I think I have a lot to think about next time in terms of re-entry and things like that. You know, I think I'll go slower than I did the first time, but faster than I did the second time, and maybe look to do an exit in the early 30-minute, maybe late 20-minute zone kind of thing.
Right. Well, I'd like to thank both of you for putting on such a wonderful show. I'm going to encourage everyone here to go follow these wonderful runners on Twitch at DPadFM and at DAdam, or at, I'll put at Dreamy Vision. We'll go ahead and correct that there.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, you're right on the case, Dreamy. Thank you for that.
We'd also like to thank the folks at SpeedGaming. Ming, as always, ways for hosting it.
Yeah, shout out to Poulem, my U-boat brother, watching from somewhere, I'm sure. And thanks, casters, for casting what I'm sure was probably a very fun set of games.
Yeah, hopefully it was at least entertaining, if not successful. But yeah, appreciate it, commentators, appreciate it, Azure Dreams Discord community, and thanks again, SpeedGaming.
And if you'd like to join that community, I will once again trigger the link for that. We would love to have you, and we would love for you to follow along and check out the next round of the tournament starting today.
Yes.
Starting basically today or tomorrow.
Depending on your time zone. Next match being Sunday, either today or tomorrow, depending on your time zone, at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on SpeedGaming 4. Shuzo will be taking on Chai. I'm expecting a great match. We've got Cluter for commentary. We will see you there.
All
GG,
right.
everybody.
Yep, thanks again.
GG.
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 Bye.